He walked into the hotel with nothing but a suitcase. No name, no smile, and no explanation. Within 48 hours, he'd be found tied up, stabbed, and barely alive in a locked room with no weapon, no suspect, and no witnesses. This is not the plot of a movie. It's real. The case of Room 1046 has baffled detectives, journalists, and amateur sleuths for nearly a century. And the strangest part? Everything about it gets weirder the deeper you go. Let's go back to 1935, Kansas City, where a man named Roland T. Owen checked into the President Hotel and vanished into mystery. He arrived on a cold January afternoon. Tall, dark-haired, in his early 20s, dressed plainly in a black overcoat. At the front desk, he signed in as Roland T. Owen, requesting an interior room high up with as little outside light as possible. He didn't want a view. He didn't even carry luggage, just a comb, a toothbrush, and toothpaste. The bellboy who escorted him to room 1046 would later describe Roland as strange, almost nervous. Inside, Roland placed his belongings in the bathroom and immediately dimmed the room. That's when things began to feel wrong. Over the next 24 hours, hotel staff noticed odd behavior. Lights stayed off, blinds remained drawn, and Roland kept locking the door from the outside, even when he left for short errands. He barely spoke to anyone. He made a single phone call, and yet, several witnesses claimed to hear multiple voices inside his locked room. So who was Roland? And who else was in room 1046? The next morning, a maid entered room 1046 around 10:30 a.m. Roland was sitting silently in the dark, barely lit by the glow of a hallway bulb. She recalled seeing a note on the desk that read, "Dawn, I will be back in 15 minutes. Wait." Roland barely acknowledged her presence. Later that day, when she returned with fresh towels, she heard two male voices arguing behind the door. One was clearly Roland, the other, unknown. When she knocked, a deep voice answered, "We don't need any." By nightfall, the front desk received several complaints about loud talking, heavy footsteps, and even what sounded like scuffling coming from room 1046. Yet every time hotel staff checked, the room appeared locked from the inside, and no one responded. Who was Dawn? Why was Roland afraid of light? And most importantly, what was going on inside that room? At 7 a.m. the next day, the hotel operator noticed the phone in room 1046 had been off the hook for hours. A bellboy was sent to check. The door was locked. After several knocks, a faint voice replied, "Come in." But the door was locked from the inside. Using a passkey, the bellboy entered, and what he saw sent chills down his spine. Roland was curled in the corner, naked, bound by cords at the wrists, ankles, and neck. He'd been tortured. Blood covered the walls, the bed sheets, even the ceiling. The scene looked like something from a horror film, but this was real. Still alive, barely, Roland whispered. "I fell against the bathtub." That was clearly a lie. Someone had done this to him. Someone violent, calculating, and cruel. The phone had been ripped from the wall. No knife was found. And yet, no one had seen anyone enter or exit the room. At the hospital, doctors were shocked by the extent of Roland's injuries. Fractured skull, punctured lung, stab wounds, and extensive bruising. When police asked him who had done this, Roland muttered one word. Nobody. Then, within hours, he died. But that's when the case took a bizarre turn. Investigators discovered that Roland T. Owen didn't exist. His name was fake. The physical description didn't match any missing persons reports. His fingerprints didn't match any in police files. Later, a woman in Los Angeles claimed she knew the man. He wasn't Roland. He was Artemus Ogletree, her son, who had left home in 1934 to travel the country. But how did Artemus end up in Kansas City? Who was Dawn? And why use a fake identity? With no known relatives at the time, the body was sent to a pauper's grave. But just before burial, the funeral home received an anonymous phone call. A man said, "Don't bury him just yet. I'll send the money." And he did. Enough for a proper casket and a floral arrangement. The card read, "Love forever, Louise." Later, newspapers received a mysterious letter claiming that Roland, or Artemus, had died for being unfaithful to a woman. Was this a revenge killing? A love triangle? A mob hit? Even more chilling. The florist reported that a man in a dark coat purchased the flowers in person. When asked who they were for, he simply said, "You'll find out soon enough." Over the years, investigators and amateur sleuths have obsessed over the clues. A fake name, a mysterious man named Don, a cryptic note, a torture scene with no weapon, a locked door from the inside. Some believe Don was a mob enforcer punishing Artemus for betrayal. Others suspect espionage. Perhaps Artemus stumbled into something bigger than himself. There's even a theory that he was being watched and punished by a secret society, and that Don was not a name, but an order like don't speak or don't leave. But none of these theories can explain how someone entered and exited a locked hotel room without ever being seen. The President Hotel still stands today. Room 1046, now renumbered, has been remodeled. Guests who stay there often report cold drafts, flickering lights, and a strange feeling that someone is watching. No one has ever been charged. No definitive suspect was ever named. And the case, despite DNA testing, new media attention, and modern forensic tools, remains unsolved. But one thing is clear: Artemus Ogletree didn't die by accident. He was hunted, tortured, and silenced. The only question is, why? And if you ever check into a quiet hotel room and you see the blinds are drawn, the lights off, and a note that says, "Wait, don't." If this story chilled you to the core, there are plenty more just like it. Hit the subscribe button for weekly true crime stories that make you question what's real and what's still hiding in the shadows. Comment below. Who do you think killed the man in room 1046? Thanks for watching, and stay curious but careful.